What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today I have a very cool video for you. A freaking AK12, man. One of the first ones I've ever got to spend intimate time with, and that is all due in part to a very cool viewer. Jonathan Isaac strikes again. Our favorite Florida man, basketball player for the Orlando Magic, keeps sending some bangers, man. We just wrapped up the video of his Type 1 AK-47. Had a lot of fun with it, took it to a gun show, pissed off some boomers, and that's now available to watch. I'll make sure to link it at the end of this video. He also sent this, and what was so funny about this, when he was sending the Type 1, he said, "Hey man, by the way, I'm gonna throw another gun in the box. Something surplus, you might like it." And it was a freaking super clean, super brand new, fresh AK-12, and I was like, God damn. I think your version of something kind of cool and my version of something kind of cool are wildly different, because this is very cool, not kind of cool. Very, very cool, very special. But before we get into this, if you like the kind of content we have here and you just like AKs in general, come on down to Texas. Kalash Bash is right around the corner. It's the largest AK festival in the country. Over 1,000 people just like you are gonna come out and shoot AKs. Over 60 plus vendors are gonna come out and show you what the new hotness is in the comm block world of buying stuff and enjoying this. We also have subgun competition tickets that are still available. So if you have a 9mm AK or any 9mm gun, you can come out and see how you do at our subgun match. Lots of prizes for that kind of stuff. Full concert, full campsite. There's a lot to enjoy. Now, back to the video. An AK-12 is nothing new. Brandon Herrera, Vol Gear, Ian at Forgotten Weapons, Polnar, everyone's done videos on the AK-12, but now it's my turn. What a lot of people are gonna say about this gun is it's a bit of a failure in what it was meant to be, and what it was supposed to be was a modern take on an AK-74. The Russians were kind of getting left behind in the battlefield as far as the 21st century goes, and around 2010 they decided it's time to replace the outdated AK-74M with something for a modern battlefield. The main goal of the AK-12 in a nutshell was to maintain that durability and that long-lived feature that the AK has had for decades. They didn't want to get away from that, so the operating system is virtually unchanged, but they needed something that would do well in a contemporary battlefield. It had to be a bit easier to use, easier to train on. They wanted better ergonomics, and of course, probably the biggest thing, it had to accept more modern optics easier, and it had to retain the zero once they were mounted, substantially more than the outgoing side-mounted optic mounts that they've been running for decades before. Starting in early 2011 through a program called the Ratnik program, the Russians not only were modernizing the AK-74, but a lot of other parts of the Russian military so they could adapt to the modern battlefield. Development started in early 2011, eventually was really finalized around the 2018-2019 timeframe, and that's when we really started to see this thing become fielded in the war in Ukraine. It kind of went the way of the AK-100 series, where they really wanted like one frame with multiple calibers. You know, the 100 series in the 90s was probably what most people would consider to be the peak of the modern AK. You had 7.62, 5.56, 5.45, 308, shotgun rounds, all different types of ammo through, you know, one receiver with nothing more than changing out a barrel and a bolt and a bullet guide. Most of the other parts were the same, and it sped up production, and that was a really sweet spot for the AK. I think what they ended up getting was a pretty okay attempt at a modernized AK-74M, and I think most people would agree with that. In fact, most people say it's a really bad attempt at it. A lot of people think that the AK-12 is a worse AK-74. But after I watched the video from Vol Gear, he's got a really good video of him actually using one of these in Ukraine. He has a war trophy, an AK-12, which is considered to be a war trophy in modern day Ukraine. These things are being found, they're being scooped up, and they are pretty coveted, honestly. Even the magazines are coveted, the optics, probably not so much. He has a very unique perspective of actually using the AK-12 and kind of telling everyone it's really not that bad. In fact, it's a pretty good go-to-war rifle. So if you want to see his video, he can go into depths about why it's actually not that bad. Go check out his channel. He's got a really good channel anyway. So I only got to put a few mags through this thing, but I have shot a lot of AK-74s in the past. I've shot semi-autos, 2-round bursts, full auto, pretty much everything under the sun. I've experienced it all with the AK-12, and I own and have shot tons of 5.45 through all different types of 74 variants. So I know what 74s, good ones, should feel like. I know what they shoot like. I know how accurate they are. I know how capable they are. So how does an AK-12 stack up? Well, in my very limited experience, what I can tell you is shooting wise, it's virtually exactly the same. The recoil impulse is just as good, if not better. However, through the Ratnik program, they wanted the AK-74 to be modernized, to be more accurate, more ergonomic, have access to more optics. As far as the accuracy thing goes, I think they delivered just as good. I think you're getting the same cone of fire with the same type of ammo. I don't think there's really any way to make it that much better. It's not like they free floated the barrel. In fact, the gas tube is actually welded in place and it still is contacting the gas block, so you can't really truly free float an AK barrel. You just can't. So I think the accuracy of the AK-74 kind of has already peaked. So I think it's just as good. I've never thought AK-74s were not accurate enough to do anything I've ever needed them to do. I have won competitions with 5.45 out of 16-inch barrel 74s, and I've never had a problem with it. I think they hold extremely good dope out to 500 or 600 yards, just like 5.56, and this is honestly no different. As far as reliability, I think the Russians delivered. It's just as reliable. They didn't change the heart of the gun. It's still a long stroke gas piston, rotating lug, bolt gun. It's a testament to the AK and just how good it is. They didn't have to change that part of it, and thank goodness they didn't. Is it more ergonomic? I don't know. My two biggest complaints with this thing being the safety. Feels like it's over traveling all the time, even though this one is running into the stop. I think it's okay. Yeah, I think the stock is better. This is, you know, tried and true AR-15 buffer tube type and an adjustable stock. It's very comfortable. It's rubberized in the rear. It's perfectly fine. Even with the 1P87 clone, the cheek weld's nice, no complaints there. And even the later version of the AK-12 stock that even Sure Shot's cloning now kind of looks like a little Zukov stock. Even better in my opinion. Is it easier to take optics? Obviously. You could put this optic on in a matter of seconds because you have the full 1913 on your dust cover, and I think that's really the big bonus of the AK-12 is now you can put any kind of optic you want on there virtually. You still have permanently affixed rear irons that take up a lot of that real estate, but with what you have left, you can do a lot with that. You can at least run you a magnifier, you can run you a dot, and if you use smaller American dots, you can really get some good stuff in there. Whatever kind of risers you want, it'll all work. The iron sights, I honestly really like. You get way more radius, you get a peep sight that's closer to your eye, so peep sights work when they're close to your eye. They don't work so much when they're farther away from your eye. It's hard to focus. That's where the notch sight comes in handy, but since it's not in the same place, the peep sight's nice. So what does it mean to own an AK-12 in this country? Well, it means you can flex pretty damn hard. It is such a flex to own an AK-12 or AK-15, really any of the new generations in this country. They are so hard to get, they are so expensive. Something like this, if I had to value it, I'd probably say $6,500 to $7 grand-ish is what I've seen them go for quite a bit. And if you actually found one of the real Russian 1P87s, those things are going for like $1,000, $1,200. So the whole package, if you had it all clone correct, you're looking at like an $8,000 package, which it's getting crazy, but in today's modern day collectible AK world, that's just what stuff's going for. You know, that Russian importation ban really hurt. A lot of stuff doesn't come in anymore. So when the really cool stuff comes in, you gotta pay for it. I remember when Dragunovs were trading for what these guys are trading for. Now, SVDs have just gone into the stratosphere, and these are a bit more attainable than that. I think if you play Tarkov or any other modern video game that features AKs, you're very well acquainted with the AK-12. A few things you might not know that are very different if you know anything about AK-74s. On the front end here, you'll notice a fairly similar looking AK-74 muzzle brake. This one has the core sampler up front. Still has some holes for mitigating recoil, but what you can't see is there's no threads underneath this thing. It's actually keyed in place and it's held in with a spring-loaded detent. On AK-74s, your front sight post would be here and the threads would be built into that post. This is a quick detach mount for not only this muzzle device, but suppressors, and it's kind of a criticism a lot of people have because it's very proprietary. You have to have a suppressor meant for an AK-12. No other suppressor will work, and I've never even seen someone mount a suppressor on an AK-12 if they still have the factory mount here. So there's that. Where you see the front sight now is on the gas block. This is called a front sight gas block combo. And you'll also see that you've got multiple bayonet lugs here, and it still will take a factory 74 bayonet. A big thing here with this gas block a lot of people don't like, it very much looks like you've got tunable gas settings here, but you don't. So a big change with the AK-12, so it's still a long stroke gas piston driven gun. You still have your gas tube / op rod channel here, but now it's fixed in place, it's actually welded in place. The gas tube does not come off. So what you have to do is take this plug out here and you can actually push a brush through your op rod channel here. A lot of people don't like that. They think it's better to fully disassemble your gun if you ever need to get inside here. And yeah, that's definitely a criticism. I think the Russians were going for less movement, less barrel whip, quicker follow-up shots between those recoil impulses. I don't know if they really delivered that, but I think that was the intention there. And of course, you see you have a little sling loop that now swivels around on the barrel. It's not mounted to the gas block or the lower handguard retainer anymore. That being said, you don't even have a lower handguard retainer. You have this brand new style of handguard made out of modern polymer. You got 1913 up top, 1913 on the bottom. I think this is really intended for vert grips or underbarrel, maybe grenade launching mounts. I'm sure that's also why we're seeing 2 bayonet lugs. And of course, laser mounts. So Russians would be using like Zenitco Purst green lasers or lights. And the criticism that a lot of people have with these handguards are they're flexy. It's polymer. You can really kind of move them around with your hand. But going back to a video that Volgear did, he's tested it. And in his experience, the lasers held good enough zero to get your cone of fire wherever you're aiming out to like 100 yards, which, you know, I don't use a lot of lasers, so I can't speak very intelligently about it. But beyond that, in his opinion, you probably wouldn't be using the laser much anyway, so it holds a good enough zero, even with a slightly flexy handguard. This has been a huge criticism of the AK-12. My opinion, really not a big deal at all. Now, getting into the meat and potatoes of what the Ratnik program really changed on the 74s going into the AK-12 was obviously your railed top cover. One of the biggest things they wanted out of the AK-12 was the ease of mounting optics. So, of course, 1913 on the dust cover. But they had to do a lot to get this dust cover to stay in place. So not only do you need to be able to mount the optics, those optics need to hold zero. It is, in this country, rail dust covers have a lot of stigma for not holding zero, and some of that's true, some of it's not so true. The Russians didn't want there to be any question. This dust cover is so freaking tight that taking it on and off is a pain in the ass. It's a huge chore. My least favorite thing about the AK-12 so far. You have a lever here that has to be swiveled up. It's so tight I can't even do it by hand. I have to have tools. This lever swivels up. A captive pin then pops out, stays in place. You then have to grab your dust cover and pull straight back. It does not pivot. It does not hinge. It comes straight back. So dust cover's off, and you can actually see those 2 little hooks right there. And there is your captive pin, and there's the channel that it goes through. So if you take a look at your dust cover here, that's that front lug that needs to be pushed into that channel for the push pin to go back through. And then you can actually see that bar there that is locked in to these 2 hooks here. And man, does it take some pressure. So dust cover sets back down, pushes straight in like so. And even that is not enough. And that was just finally enough to get our pin back in. And then we just swivel it back in place. Now, not all of that was on film. YouTube doesn't like it for one thing, and I just didn't want you to see me struggle, but palming it, Couldn't get it to close. A couple of taps from a rubber mallet, and she goes. I think that loosens up over time, but when they're fresh, that's a son of a bitch. I will say that that has got to hold zero. This one does not move. My biggest issue with it is if you ever needed to take the dust cover off, the beauty of the original AK was the dust cover comes off and on in a matter of seconds. You can do it one-handed. If you got one hand, you're gonna die. If you get a jam and need to get into this thing and you're panicking, you're probably gonna die. It takes everything I have to take this thing off and put it back on, but I get it. This is a kit. Maybe this one's just put together very tight. Not every AK is the same. The safety's been another point of contention. It over travels, at least this one makes you think it's over traveling, but if you notice right here, that's your over travel stop. The safety should not go past that little guy there. Now, once the safety is activated, it looks like it's over traveling. I've never had this one push past the safety stop, so it doesn't technically over travel for me, but there's been a lot of videos where people show that their AK12s do, meaning the safety will jump over that spot there, swing straight down off the gun, which is bad. You don't want that happening, well, really ever, but I guess in the battlefield, you really don't want that happening. So this being the semi-auto position, you would then have a full auto position, a 2-round burst position, and then your safe position. I've shot them all on other AK-12s. The 2-round burst is cool, not cool enough where I'd really want it. And I think later versions of the AK-12 actually abandoned the 2-round burst and just went to semi and full. This one has an ALG trigger, which is pretty cool. It shoots very fast and has a really nice trigger pull. So I can't tell you what a factory AK-12 trigger feels like because I don't have one. Another big thing is they've actually relocated the rear sight to the rear of the dust cover, greatly enhancing your sight radius between your 2 iron sights. And of course, they give you a peep sight. The peep sight's nice because it actually works because it's closer to your eyeball. Peep sights just don't work on the middle of the gun when people are like replacing their factory leaf sights on AKs with peeps. Those don't work very well. A peep needs to be closer to your eye. Since it's closer to your eye, I welcome the addition of a peep sight. Later AK-12s would have a post that actually stands up that has some pretty intricate adjustment. Volgear's video, he actually has a version of the AK-12 with that. It kind of looks like an LMT rear sight post that stands straight up. That seems like a really nice iron sight. I haven't seen many AK-12s in this country with that setup, but I'm sure it's better. He seems to really like it, but this was perfectly fine. Of course, you can see our beautiful proof stamps here. We love seeing that on Russian stuff. We even have some going on here on the bottom of the grip. And of course, really cool party trick that the AK-12 has is inside of your grip, you've got oil bottle and a place to keep some cleaning supplies. It's all there. It's very cool. And it just pops right back in place. Folding the stock is exactly the same compared to other AK-74s. It's the push button, the exact same type. You'll notice there's no latch, but it does retain it. And it does that with a new mechanism inside the rear here. I'm not sure why they redesigned this. I don't know what was wrong with the original latch. I know that latch mechanism inside the receiver took up a lot of real estate. Maybe that's why they didn't do it anymore, but it is what it is. So now, to get this thing to release, you actually have to close the stock, push down, and you can then fully deploy your stock with a little bit of stank, and you're back to normal. It feels just as solid as before. It takes a little bit more doing to deploy it. Folding it's the same way, and it does technically hold in place when it is folded. And then finally, the AK-12 magazine. It has steel reinforcements where you would want in an AK mag, in all the same places. Reinforcement ribs. This kind of looks like, in my opinion, if like there was a Russian version of Magpul and they designed a mag, that's what you got. You have witness windows here so you can see if you're loaded, and you have numbers to tell you how loaded you are. The coolest party trick of this mag, in my opinion, is the flat spot here on the heel. To my knowledge, this is intended for monopoding. What I mean by that is propping your gun on the mag. If you're going prone, you actually have a flat spot on the mag instead of just digging the heel of your normal AK-74 mag into the ground. So you can actually see the difference there. You're squared off here on a factory mag. The AK-12 mag has a heel. to make it easier to monopod when you're prone. I think it's a pretty cool thing, very pragmatic, very Russian, pretty cool. All in all, this is a super clean kit. Just throwing that out there. Whoever put this together, Jonathan, whoever you had put this together, did a great job. The receiver looks very nice. The fire selector settings look very correct. Everything on the side of the receiver looks very correct. It's just a good looking gun, so good job. This is a nice one. So that's my AK-12 video. Wish I had more time with it, man. I really wish I could dump a hell of a lot more ammo through it and take it out to distance and shoot some matches with it, but this is a very nice one. This is a very valuable one, so I'm gonna send it back to Jonathan in one piece. So thank you, Jonathan, again, for letting us play with your AK-12, and I can't wait to see what you send next. Again, guys, if you like this channel and you like what we do here, feel free to like and subscribe, leave us a comment. How do you feel about the AK-12? And don't forget to tell Jonathan, yo, thank you and good luck at the next game, brother. Video would not have been possible without you. And thank you, Global Ordnance, for supplying us with some brand new brass case 545. Thanks, fellas. And to the rest of you, Kalash Bash again is right around the corner. If you want to be a part of the modern day AK world, man, come to the biggest event in the country. Come see us at Kalash Bash 2025. I promise you, you won't be disappointed. All right, everyone, we'll see you next time.